Hello and welcome to Beyond the Badge. I'm your host, Middlesex Sheriff Peter Koutoujian. Across the Commonwealth, sheriffs and their staffs play a critical, important role in enhancing public safety. Not only are sheriffs responsible for ensuring the care, custody, and control of individuals placed with them by the courts, but they also work to support the efforts of local law enforcement partners. Today I'm proud to be joined by a fellow sheriff who is constantly seeking new and innovative ways to carry out these important missions. Joseph McDonald was first elected to serve as Sheriff of Plymouth County in 2004, a lifelong Plymouth County resident and former Assistant District Attorney. He is also the former president of the statewide Massachusetts Sheriff's Association. Thank you for joining me today, Joe.
Sheriff, it's great to be here.
Well, and sadly, I know the burden of having been president of the Massachusetts Sheriff's Association, because now I bear that same title and burden as well.
And I appreciate you doing that, Peter. I have to tell you that if anybody is up to the task, especially in these challenging times, that it's you.
Well, thank you. Honestly, I think, as you know, I wasn't particularly eager to serve as president because we've got a lot going on anyway. It's a difficult job, but quite honestly, when you asked me, not the first time, but the second time, I knew when you were asking me a second time that it's something that I should do, because quite honestly, we're all here to serve, and if I'm asked a second time to serve in that role, then it's something that I honestly don't believe I have the option to say no. It's something I should do, and you had done it not just once, but a couple of times. I think you were in there as well.
I did, yeah, I did twice, and it was a great experience, and it was good to be in that role and guide policy. But I think it was time for me to step aside and let somebody else come in with a different political affiliation and someone who might bring some fresh ideas to the table. And God bless you, you've done exactly that.
Well,
you've really done an excellent job. And I hope, and it's incumbent upon me and the other sheriffs to make sure that we provide you with the support that you're going to need in that role.
Yeah, thank you. It is difficult. There's a lot. More and more corrections are becoming at the forefront of everything we're doing in policy, in providing not just safety and security, but betterment of our communities and in the betterment of families and individuals. So I think people are realizing the role we play and are now much more eager to become involved in a way that they may or may not understand truly the impacts of what they're asking us to do. And I think that's really our role, is to try to inform them and hope that they'll listen and that we can work together as partners in so many of these.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah. So now, Joe, you and I have different backgrounds. I was a former prosecutor like you. I was in Middlesex. You were in Plymouth County. I went to the legislature for a number of years. Could you tell us a little bit about some of your background and what it brings to the job as sheriff in Plymouth County?
Sure. Yeah, our backgrounds are similar. I mean, our politics are different. You're a Democrat. I'm a Republican.
Yep.
And I think that's one of the things that makes the dynamics between us and our colleagues so very effective, because we build from each other. We take a lot of the best ideas that we can come up with, and we utilize those in our own shops.
That's right.
But I think, it's interesting. My background, as you correctly point out, I'm a lifelong Plymouth County guy. I grew up down there in Marshfield, and I live in Kingston now. I was my career aspiration was to be a career prosecutor. And I realized that goal in Plymouth County, and I prosecuted cases and participated in investigations all over Plymouth County, in all the district courts, and ultimately in the Superior Court in Plymouth County. And then in 2004, saw an opportunity that our sheriff's office wasn't being particularly well run. I felt that we needed a change over there, so I took a leave of absence from the job as a prosecutor at the DA's office, ran for that office, and I won and was sworn in 2005.
Very slim victory too, as I recall. It was tight, and the names were similar too, as I recall, too.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah. My predecessor, I'm McDonald. My predecessor was McDonough. We're both Joe.
Right.
And it certainly made for an interesting race. And out of 250,000 votes cast, I think my margin of victory was 997. So they called me Landslide Joe.
Landslide Joe, but you're still in there.
I'm still there. And by all accounts, we're doing a great job down there. And as I always say, I do take credit for that, but reluctantly, there are so many great people, and I'm sure it's the same with you, Peter.
That's right.
Our employees make us look a lot better than we really are.
Yeah, we may have a vision, we may have a passion, but unless we have the right people around us to to see that through, then it really means nothing. It's just a vision or a passion, and leads to greater frustration probably too.
Yeah.
And let me ask you this now too, because when I was first asked to consider the appointment by Governor Patrick, not by Governor Patrick, but by others, had reached out and said, would you be interested in the appointment when Sheriff DePaula had initially resigned? I remember that I was kind of struck by the fact when I learned more about the office, that I didn't truly understand the sheriff's office in the same way. Even though I had done defense work and probably, and had some of my, clients probably attend jail or being held pretrial, and even as a prosecutor, when I was sending people, I knew the address quite well because I was sending people to 269 Treble Cove Road, every day almost, or seemed like every day. But I really didn't understand the job of the sheriff, the mission of the sheriff, and everything it encompasses. How about you?
Yeah, same with me. And you really can't hold us harmful for that, because really when you talk to people, I find one of the most difficult and challenging things that I do is talk to people about what it is that a sheriff does. Because let's face it, most people get their ideas as to what a sheriff is from television.
That's right.
You've got on one extreme, you've got Andy Taylor and Mayberry.
Yes, right.
And then on the other extreme, you've got these episodes of Cops or these reality shows that people are watching. So people really don't know, or if they're fans of the movie like Smokey and the Bandit, it's comedic, it's quaint, it's violent, it's many things. And I think it's interesting that people want to, well, geez, we really don't see the presence of the sheriff like we do in other places. And that's because, all the sheriffs, and there are thousands of us nationally, our roles are vastly different in different parts of the country. In the South and in the West, where county government is much stronger, you do see the sheriffs having a much more frontline law enforcement presence than we do. And up here, thankfully for us, we don't necessarily have to do that type of stuff, because all of our municipalities have such great and competent police departments.
That's right.
So we don't have the budgets to do those things, but the good news is we don't have to.
In the rest of the country, so many sheriffs are actually conducting patrol missions. We don't. We do support our local police, but we're not primary law enforcement on our streets overall, because we have primary law enforcement agencies.
Right.
So we supplement and support. And many others don't even do, like we do, predominantly corrections. There are many others that really just kind of manage the maybe corrections or maybe not, but they also do the court personnel. We used to do that at one point historically. It is pretty interesting. What I find is actually in some ways is the fact that we do predominantly corrections with some other law enforcement. We can speak a little bit about our special forces and our canines and our command centers and equipment, which I just saw on the news recently from your shop. But the fact is that it's almost freeing to do corrections, because then you can just focus on the corrections aspect of it. Whereas if you have patrol in your shop, that by its nature is the primary focus of everything, and corrections is completely secondary to what you do every day. Right. In some ways, it's for me at least, it's freeing to be able to participate in the corrective side of corrections.
And that's a function, I think, of the visibility of it. People don't, even if they're getting this information from TV or whatever, all of those television dramas, you've got the crime, the investigation, the arrest, the trial, and that's where it ends.
Right.
And now we're getting some reality shows, and some of them are not so realistic.
They're not so,
but nobody seems to think about what happens once they come to us in the House of Correction.
Right.
And I think that's like you say. In some instances, it's somewhat liberating for us to be able to do that work, to concentrate on that work, and do some great work. And I like to think that some of the stuff that especially in your shop, you're coming up with some really great rehabilitative programs, and sharing them with us. And all of us really have different programs that seem to be working out very well. And hopefully, we in Massachusetts are looked to as leaders nationally in corrections, because that's really our bread and butter. That's the lion's share of our work.
That's right.
And although it's not necessarily appreciated, what I always like to say to people is, you rarely notice our presence, but you would most assuredly notice our absence.
That's right too. That's right.
And if we're doing our jobs correctly.
That's right. That's right. And I mean, you think about it, and I will go to any room, whenever I speak at a Rotary group. It doesn't matter what group I speak with, professional associations. a higher, more highly educated, less highly educated, wealthy or less wealthy, I will always ask the three questions. How many people know someone with a mental health issue? And 2/3 to 3/4, at the very least, every single time will raise their hand, sometimes 90%. How many people know someone with a substance use disorder? Again, 2/3 to 3/4, at least, sometimes 90% will raise their hand. And then I ask the last question, which is a surprising one. How many people know someone that's been incarcerated? And again, that very same number will raise their hand every single time. It is stunning to me to think about how, the issues that we face are the things that are troubling society, but manifest themselves in a way that, in a certain population, that become criminally justice involved, that we have to treat, that we get to treat, but we have to treat because society is not dealing with the issues that led those individuals to us, to stop them from coming to us in the first time, and then sometimes when they get back out, not supporting them in the way that they need to be supported so that they return to us as well.
Yeah, and that's one of the big challenges that all of us face, and the public, I think, is now becoming more acutely aware of all of those issues. When those folks are with us, when they come to us, they're able to, the first time in perhaps years, come out clean and sober, trained perhaps with a vocation that they didn't have before, and get out into the community. And we need to get those supports there. It's interesting to note when I speak at those groups, they're shocked to learn that the largest providers of mental health services and substance abuse
always the jails.
Services are the jails.
Right, that's right.
And I think that's unfortunate. We'll do it anyway, and we'll continue to do that.
Right.
But the unfortunate thing is that those folks who end up with us, many of them need not do that if the public health response was appropriate.
That's right. I mean, listen, the three largest mental health treatment facilities in the country are LA, Rikers, and Cook County jails. We're the largest in Middlesex. I'm sure you're the largest in Plymouth, and we have some professional, facilities in our place, and we're still the largest. It is quite frustrating to realize that. So I always say this too. I'm proud of the programs we have in Middlesex and that we have in sheriff's offices across the state, especially. Because we are like a cut above everywhere else in the country. I'm proud of the programs. I think they're second to none, but you shouldn't have to come to jail to get good programming or good resources. You should be able to get them in the community so you don't have to come to jail.
That's very well stated, because, and everybody knows that, when you come to jail and you can get out, you've participated in our rehabilitative programs, the fact of the matter is you've got that criminal offender record information, that CORI record, that's going to follow you, and it's going to make it much more difficult for you to find. I think the most important thing, once these folks have come to us, they're clean and sober for the first time perhaps in years, they've got a new vocational skill, they get out into the community, and what happens? Unless those supports are out there, and we need to work on those, and that's our mandate afterwards. But one of the things that we've done, I know that you
I was going to ask you about this. So one of the things that's important to a person's successful reentry is a job. It's not the only thing. Like everyone says, oh, they just need a job. Well, that's not the only thing. They need many other things in place. But one of the things that's really important is to have a job and to be able to get to the job and make sure it's a type of job that they can get, that they're qualified to. You're doing some really innovative work with some job fairs. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, we've been doing that for several years now. CORI-friendly job fairs. We're finding.
So, and by the way, we should explain to people that are watching what does CORI-friendly mean.
Okay, what CORI-friendly is that there's.
Now I know this. I just want everyone. I know this, but for those of you that may not know this, please explain.
Indeed, I know you know this, Peter, and everybody knows you know this. But what it is we're putting it out there as a premise that everybody knows, understands, and accepts that these individuals applying for the jobs have done some period of time of incarceration. And the employers know this ahead of time. That way there's no embarrassing questions that have to be asked or answered. And the employers have all said and agreed that this will not be a fatal impediment to somebody obtaining employment with our company.
That's right. And the word CORI is C-O-R-I, Criminal Offender Record Information.
Right.
So they have a criminal record. Whether they've served time or not, they have a criminal record. And so many employers are not, they're not eager to hire someone with a criminal record, or they may feel, maybe appropriately, that it's a potential liability issue for them sometimes as well. And this is an opportunity to give people jobs that are needed, that other people sometimes don't want. Tell us a little bit about how the job, your Corey-friendly job fair for offenders, is put together, and who comes, and who is there as an employer. What type of industries?
Yes, I was really amazed at the number and varied nature of the businesses that came to us. The way that we had done it as a matter of logistics in the past, we do have them internally. That's how we started them. And we have a gymnasium area, and what we did was set up tables, and the employers came and they set up, just like any job fair that you'd been to. You know, they'd have like a table banner that says what company they are. They'll have information on what types of careers they offer, and they actually, some of them did job interviews right there. One of the things that our reentry staff, I'm sure your reentry staff does too, is we work on life skills with these folks when they're in with us.
How to interview and
exactly right. How do you tie your tie, and how do you know what should I wear?
By the way, just so you know, I've just gone through this with my son, who is just turning 15. He got his first job. I was going through job interview skills, how to tie your tie, you know, all the things. By the way, but he didn't need any of this help because he had it all right up in here. He knew it all, so he didn't really need help from his dad. But I'm sure a lot of these guys are the same way, right? They think that they got it up here. They don't realize that they've got to practice it. They've got to be educated a bit, just so that they can perform well, and look good. Yeah,
and I think that's what the employers really are looking for. They understand that these individuals have made some mistakes for whatever reason, and are willing to overlook that and give them an opportunity. So if these guys, and we will explain to them, if you can present well, you know, your language is good, you know, you look, and by good I mean you're not salty in any of the expressions that you're using, and if they get, if you make a good impression, that you will find employment from this. And some of the, you know, we had written some of these down. The Kraft Group, Amazon.com, IBEW, the union came down. God bless them. Cisco, the food service company, they're gigantic. Cheerpack, American Express Industrial Services. We average 20 employers per job fair, and it's really been a wonderful, wonderful experience for us, for the employers. I know the Tedeschi food shops used to come in, and now I believe they've been bought up by the 7-Eleven stores. So a lot of those guys come. Inside we have people getting ServSafe certifications and learning culinary arts and how to do those things and get those types of jobs as well. So we had an external job fair this past April, which was an interesting thing. The DA and I were having lunch. The DA and I we meet up quite a bit. We play ice hockey together, and we do a lot of things socially. And we thought, wouldn't it be a great idea if we could do a job fair, but let's do it for people who are outside, and see if we can, you know, offer those services to people that may have been through our programs.
And how did you connect with the people on the outside to invite them, or did you just publicize it?
We publicized it very well through the newspapers, the radio. The media was excellent in helping us get it out there. We got it to a lot of the social service agencies that are out there. They put it out, and it was very, very well attended. We did it over at the War Memorial Hall in Brockton, and we had over 20 employers, and it was a wonderful experience. We're going to do it again. We're going to do it next, I think it was in October. October 3rd. October 3rd, where and when, in case anyone from Plymouth County is watching, or quite honestly, people can go down there. And this is wonderful. This is why sheriffs are, I think, special in what we do, because each of us can create something and then replicate. And it's my complete intent to replicate what you're doing here. You've spoken about this before, and I've been thinking about this a great deal, and this is a great opportunity perhaps this fall to do something like this. So this is the idea. Each of us innovate, we create something, we try it out. If it works, we continue it, and if it doesn't work, we stop it, and then we replicate each other's work, building this incubatory opportunity of innovative initiatives. I think it's a wonderful thing to do. Hopefully you'll be around, and maybe you can swing down. Maybe you can come on down. So October 3rd, where October is it again? 3rd, it's going to be at the War Memorial again in Brockton. And about what time do you think? And it'll run all day. It'll start early in the morning, probably 8 or 9 o'clock, and it'll run through the early afternoon, probably 3 or 4 in the afternoon. That's great. And it's great. You know, we got press coverage of the actual fair as it went on. They talked to the folks who were coming in or out. They talked to a lot of the employers. we put out a very simple lunch for everybody. We
Yep.
had some sandwiches and some drinks.
And this is just sheriffs. We just throw people in jail and we just lock them up and
Right.
and then we just turn them back out and
Right.
that's all that we do. And you're just showing, and by the way, it's not a partisan issue. You're Republican, I'm Democrat, and I think that's a great thing to do.
Yeah.
That's really wonderful.
Well, that's the great thing about our association. 14 sheriffs statewide, and we all have different ideas, different backgrounds, but it's such a refreshing exercise when we get together. We exchange these ideas. That I can honestly say, I look across the table here at you, and I don't see Sheriff Peter Koutoujian. I see my friend Peter.
That's right. Yeah.
And
right.
I'm always happy when you're in the neighborhood for you to come and visit me. We'll go fishing.
Right.
We'll have some
That's right.
fun.
That's
I
right.
love to get to see you and the kids, and and the wonderful ideas that you and your staff bring. Believe me, I am going to snipe as many of those as I possibly can.
That's right.
And I expect that you'll do the
That's
same.
what we should do. That's what we should be doing. That's our responsibility.
Yeah.
And speaking of which, now in Middlesex, we've got a number of opioid opioids are a significant problem in our county. We were the number one, highest, overdose death rate. I mean, we're a larger county than most anyway. Massachusetts was the epicenter of the opioid overdose, of the opioid problem. Now it's moved, sadly, to Ohio area, especially Columbus, Ohio, has a tremendous problem. And we in Massachusetts have actually bent the curve a little bit. We haven't solved the problem, but we've slowed the progress of the problem down. Should have been done years ago, but we are moving in that direction, working collaboratively. In Middlesex, we have a number of programs. I know that you have a really interesting program done with all of the police departments down there in Plymouth County. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes. Yeah, and this is another thing that I know you've expressed interest in. A number of the other sheriffs have. It's an excellent, excellent idea. Again, with District Attorney Tim Cruz, we looked at this. I was on the governor's opiate task force, the working group, and some of the ideas that I came away from there, I had spoken to the district attorney about, and his thought, and I agreed with him, was, there must be a way. We've got so many great community coalitions that are working on this. The medical community is working on this. Faith-based coalitions that are working on this. Education-based.
But all working on it in their own
all
places.
working on it in
Right.
their own compartments.
Right.
So what we have done, we have created a task force, and we look at this countywide. And probably the most important thing that we're doing that can be translated and transferred to other places is we're now tracking data.
Right.
Because normally, if someone from the city of Brockton overdosed while they were in the town of Rockland, they might not know that. Rockland would know about it, but Brockton wouldn't necessarily.
That's right.
So what we're able to do is identify those silos of greatest need and bring the power of all of us to bear on this. So when we're applying for grants or something, we're not just going to do it individually and compete with each other. We're going to do it regionally
Right.
and work together.
That's right.
So we have had police involvement. We've got something, Plymouth County Outreach, PCO, that's run by our East Bridgewater Police Chief, Scott Allen, and our Plymouth
right.
Police Chief, Michael Botieri.
Right.
And it's amazing, whenever there is an overdose incident, the police department will follow this up. Plainclothes officers will go the next day, and they will give that person information as to where
So
they can
these
go
are
for help.
non-fatal overdoses as well. So especially the non-fatals, they'll actually go to the home of the person that had overdosed.
Yes.
Try to connect with them, not just in a way to make an arrest, but to actually offer them services.
Correct. Yeah, and this has nothing to do with an
Right,
arrest.
right.
So there's no uniformed officers.
That's right.
They will go to that house. They will give them information as to where they can go. And interestingly enough, the Plymouth County Outreach that the police are running, they're actually doing these drop-in centers in one half of the county 1 week, and then the following week. So we'll have the southern end of the county and then the northern end of the county.
Yep.
So 1 week, the second week, the third week, the fourth week, for people just to come.
Right.
And find out, and it doesn't have to be the individuals who are addicted themselves, family members, concerned friends.
They're all impacted, right?
We're
They're
all impacted,
by this.
absolutely.
Yes,
yeah.
absolutely.
So this has been a great thing, and I didn't know when we first started this that the response would be the majority of people are actually seeking help
Right.
from this contact, and sometimes they don't necessarily want to let on that they're going to do that. So you might find someone from the northern end of the county going to the southern end of the county meeting.
I see. So they're not recognized.
Right,
Yeah,
but it's
understood.
interesting to note because they get there and they look around and say, geez, I know all these people too.
Right. Right. Yeah.
So, and when you talk to them, they'll say, I don't want you guys coming to talk to me tomorrow. Don't come to my house at number 3 Plymouth Street, apartment 4 in the back, the red door. I don't want you coming.
Right.
But really, I think
They really want them coming.
really
Again,
do.
that's the way
really
we're.
do.
I mean, listen. This goes to show you what we're doing in law enforcement and working with our police, with our district attorneys, not to prosecute people or put people in jail, is to actually keep
Yeah.
people alive and out of jail.
Yep.
So much of the work we do, and the collaboration between our county, towns, and cities, and sheriff's offices and district attorneys is so significant now. I mean, we're working with the Arnold Foundation on a data-driven justice initiative where we will actually be able to combine and create more uniformity between all the databases. So we'll understand who's being arrested, but also who's being a victim of a crime and a witness to a crime and an overdose, and who's going in for mental health concerns to the emergency rooms, so we can understand who's in greatest crisis and then step in and get them onto the path to success. So it's not just an effort to divert people from incarceration, it's an effort to divert them into the services they need, just exactly what
Right.
you're doing in Plymouth County.
Right. And like you're doing here in Middlesex. And I say to people all the time, if we're doing our jobs correctly, and I think we are, we can always improve, but I think we're doing a pretty good job now, it affects not just the lives of the people that we incarcerate, but the quality of life for everybody in our community.
For an entire community. And it
Yeah.
saves taxpayer dollars as well.
Right.
Now, we've only got a couple moments left, but one of the things that I love is I'm about as Democrat as an elected official can be. I mean, at least I'm a pretty solid Democrat. You're a pretty solid Republican, and yet
Yes.
we get along quite well, and we work together. I found this with sheriffs across the country, actually, that so many times with the issues that affect our populations, we're on the same page. There's really, we might be on different pages on other issues, policy-wise, but on these issues and corrections, hardcore Democrats, hardcore Republicans are on the same page on these things.
Absolutely correct, Peter. And the way that I characterize this is, there are many sheriffs who are Democrats and many sheriffs who are Republicans, but there are no Republican sheriffs and there are no Democrat sheriffs. There are sheriffs.
Yeah, that's right.
And at the end of the day, if you've got a good idea, I'm going to pat you on the back and tell you so.
That's right.
And I'm going to steal it.
That's right. Well, is the greatest form of flattery, right? Is imitation. So that's great, Joe. And it's been a real pleasure working with you and enjoying your experience with us. And thank you very much for your leadership, Joe. And so thank you very much for your time.
Oh, and back at you, Peter. Thank you for everything that you're doing. I'd love to come back, do another segment with you on some of our other
Sounds great.
things that
And
we've
I
got.
look forward to kind of informing you about our next Corey-friendly job fair as
Awesome.
well. So that'll
Yeah.
be great.
I look forward to that.
That's great, Joe. Well, that's all the time we have for today's show. I want to thank my guest, Plymouth County Sheriff Joe McDonald, for the great discussion, and thanks to all of you for joining us. I hope that you'll tune back in for future episodes. But until then, please remember that life is full of choices. Please make good ones.